Dr. Miller here with a video for you. I'm going to do a couple of these videos on sports nutrition. So I hope you'll tune in and enjoy. Before you do, subscribe to my channel. Always on the quest for the Lambo. We got to 1,000 subs. Remember, it's we're in it together, even though you get very little actually for subbing. But all you got to do is click a button. I mean, it's not a lot of effort, okay? You can wait to the end of the video to see if you like it. Smack the bell and share the video as you see fit. Okay. Let's talk about sports nutrition. Now, I could start in a lot of different places. And what I'm going to do is make smaller videos kind of tackling maybe small things you could get better at. And I say sports nutrition, I don't mean to infer that you have to be an athlete in the sense of like you're training to play in college or something like that. You could, right? But this sports nutrition, think of it as more like active nutrition. We could even say exercise and sports nutrition. All right. There are some things you can do in training or with nutrition to help your training. How's that? And a lot of times that kind of falls on the span of sports nutrition. So, you know, I think the obvious place to go is protein to start. But I'm going to start somewhere else, actually, because workout carbs / sugar / sports drink / Kool-Aid, whatever you pick your favorite sugar, has gotten such a bad rap. That I want to start there. And working with clients over the years, many clients embrace this idea of what's sometimes called workout carbs, or just basically a sugary something while you're training. But I want to talk about it because if you are somebody who trains consistently and trains hard, and that's the hard part of this, is determining what is training hard. But if you're training for a consistent 30 minutes of weight training in particular, and then in terms of cardiovascular training, you can have that same rule, but it's going to be less carbohydrates. And I'll go over some guidelines. But you can benefit from workout carbs, and the reason is this. This is the kind of conventional thinking is, well, I don't want to do any. If I'm losing weight or if I'm trying to train or whatever it is, I don't need the carbs. I don't want the carbs, or the carbs. I feel fine when I train. It's back to, if you ever seen my video on, good versus best versus better, right? There's a difference. So I'm encouraging all of you, even if your training is good, like I'm doing well during training, I want to challenge you to try using some sugar during. Now, obviously, sugar's got, again, such a horrible rap. Carbs are evil, right? But if that's true, carbs are evil, then fiber is evil because fiber is a carb. So don't do that. Instead, look at carbohydrates as tools. Like, you got to use the right tool at the right time. Now, if you're sitting around, playing video games and drinking carbohydrates, aka sugary drinks, that's a bad idea. But if you're using them at the appropriate time, that's a good idea. All right. So let's talk about sources. This is an easy one. I already mentioned these sports drinks. A lot of times the sports drinks is if you mix the powder in, it's a little bit easier to control how much sugar you get. Otherwise you're kind of stuck with what's in a container in terms of its concentration. But I mean, that usually isn't that big of a deal. Just don't drink so much, right? The other areas or other things you can try: lemonade, Kool-Aid, I mentioned before. Basically whatever you want. Liquid is best because it gets in your system faster. A cool liquid, right, with the sugary beverage. And how sugary should it be? It's hard to, and it's 6% solution, but it's hard to measure, right? Instead, just measure out the amount of workout carb you would like to have, and I'll talk about how much that is. Like I say, it's 20 grams of sugar, and then mix it in a drink. Obviously, everybody's going to have a little bit different tolerance. I would say if it's like a sludge, you need to put more fluid in it, aka water, okay? If you want to make it last a little bit longer, you could dilute it a little bit more, but just know as you do that, then you need to drink more, right? Make sure you drink the whole workout carb solution within the training time, or as prescribed within a training time, and I'll get into that in just a minute. So those are some typical places you can get sugar. Now, you don't always have to. I mean, there's other places too. Orange juice, that's not something I would want to do, but that's just me. There's been people that consume cereal while they train, obviously incorporating some protein in there now as well, but not one of my faves either, but you could do it. You could use gummies if you don't like drinking and carbs. I mean, there's not as, you can think of it as a scale of optimal. It's still better than nothing, but it's not as optimal as drinking in carbs because it goes in there quick. This is also why you don't want to drink carbs otherwise, because it's easy to just suck them down, right? And then you drink more and more and more. This is why sodas can really put weight on quickly. All right. So those are all the different, I mean, you don't have to be real fancy here, but I know there's designer workout carbs. I don't have anything like, these dextrose, I don't have a problem with those. Sugar seems to be more effective though, because it has fructose and glucose in it. You get a good insulin spike from that. Fructose replenished in the liver. I would incorporate just plain old sugar if you're going to say commit to one. I would say just eat plain old sugar, or drink plain old sugar. Okay, all right. So there's that. Number 2, when do you take it? And that kind of follows on there is how much. So when depends on a couple things. So if you're training first thing in the morning, consume some before you train. So if you're familiar with RP, I do consulting to them. You kind of use the 1/3 before, 1/3 during, 1/3 after. All right. So if you had 30 grams of workout carb, let's say for an hour-long training session, and how much you have depends on how big you are and how long you train. And I'll talk about that in a minute. If it's the first thing you do in the morning, I would consider drinking 1/3 of those carbs before you train. You want energy to train. Keep in mind that workout carbs not only give you energy, but they're also part of maintaining some control over what's called muscle protein breakdown. So when you want to build muscles, or even if you don't want to build muscles, you just want to recover, you have 2 pieces of that: muscle protein synthesis and muscle protein breakdown. The muscle protein synthesis comes from, the best ways is to eat protein and lift weights. But to reduce muscle protein breakdown, this is where carbohydrates are very helpful, because you get in high cortisol levels. This is, one of the mechanisms. That's when you can see more breakdown. So carbohydrates availability is important. You don't want to go in a weight training session underfueled, because you can't train hard. I'm talking about any kind of training, not just weight training. And then on top of that, likely increase the amount of muscle protein breakdown. Okay. Even again, if you're not even trying to get jacked, if you're just trying to recover, this is a bad idea. This whole idea of fasted training, don't do that. Okay. There's more myth to that than there is support, and even the support with it. Everything's a trade-off. So you could say, well, I'm going to do fasted cardio and improve my fat metabolism. Okay, fine, but now you can't work out as hard. You could burn more energy by just putting some carbs in and work out harder, and then your muscle protein breakdown will be lower, right? It's a trade-off. Many times we fall into these kind of sexy ideas, and we don't realize that there's an opportunity cost associated with those. Okay, so we trade one for the other, and it turns out maybe isn't better. So anyway. Now, not just in the morning as well. Let's say you are busy at school or work or whatever, and you can't eat but 5 hours before training for some reason. You will want to do the same thing. You want to have 1/3 before, 1/3 during, 1/3 after. Now, notice I keep saying after of some sort too. Now, I'll talk about that in a second. So now, if you can eat within 3 hours, less than 3 hours, 3 hours or so before a training session, then you could do 2/3 during and then 1/3 after. Okay. So, the idea is that you had some energy going into the training session from the previous normal meal, like a whole meal, real food. Okay. And then you carry that energy into the training session. All right. Now, you could do, some other configuration of, 1/3, 2/3, and nothing after. There's all kinds of configurations, but what I'm trying to give you here is the optimal. All right. So some energy going in. Now, you typically save 1/3 for immediately after. And the reason is, what I just told you about muscle protein breakdown, but also during training sessions, you are going to, there's something called glute-4 translocation. I won't get into much too in the weeds here, but essentially you're burning glucose, you're burning sugar, and your body gets really sensitive during that time to pulling sugar into cells, specifically we're talking here skeletal muscle. And so this is a great time. You have a 2-hour window where there's exponential decline in the ability to replenish your skeletal muscles efficiently for the next training session. I'm not even talking within the day. I'm talking the next day. And so you want to take advantage of that by, and again, consuming some workout carbs post. So you're not only reducing muscle protein breakdown, but you're also increasing recovery through replenishment of muscle glycogen stores. So all that to say, you're recovering faster. If you fail to consume something within 2 hours after, carbohydrate, yes, you will recover some of it, but you're not recovering as efficiently. You may not recover it completely. So before the next session, right? So make sure that you're getting these 1/3 of your workout carbs after. 2/3 are during for energy and for the blunting of muscle protein breakdown. And the after is for replenishment of spent muscle glycogen, replenishment of muscle glycogen, okay, and the blunting of muscle protein breakdown. Keep in mind, insulin is anabolic. So when you have a sugar spike, right, the insulin spike, that is an anabolic hormone. Insulin is an anabolic hormone. Okay, so it's storing everything. It's going to promote even the pulling in of amino acids. Okay, but in particular, it's blunting, and through that process, is blunting cortisol levels, which indirectly then breaks down amino acids, and that's one of its major contributions to muscle protein breakdown. So I hope that makes sense. Now, I would highly recommend it, and this is what I would say to those that I'm doing fine. Try it. Even try just a little bit. Try 10 grams. Just see how you feel. Right, during a training session that's, a challenging training session. 10 grams. And again, I was kind of ambiguous with when you need it, but again, 30 minutes is kind of a cutoff. If you're under 30 minutes of training, you could really look at, if it's a really hard training session, it might warrant some workout carbs. But if it's not that intense, 15 grams of workout carbs, right? Your typical HIIT training session, that's 30 minutes long. 15 grams of workout carbs would be just fine, right? You don't need to go crazy. But for those of you that are training a little bit harder for a longer period of time, up to an hour, 45 minutes, hour and a half, I don't know how you do that without workout carbs. Okay, get some workout carbs. It'll make a significant difference. Okay, all right. How much workout carb do you need? Well, at a minimum, at a minimum, around this whole training session, and this is just like the bare bones. If you're past the 30 minutes, right, it'll be 20 grams. Okay, 20 grams of carbs. And as a general rule, okay, this is my general rule. I don't have any like pinned to research data. This is my general rule. Just looking at the kind of physiology, recovery, etc. As you can add 10 grams then per an extra 30 minutes. So if you went 60 minutes, you could get 30 grams of workout carbs. Now, that's if you're female and you're 150 pounds or less. If you're a male, if you're 200 pounds or less, all right. If you're if you're over that, then you get another allowance. You get 10 more grams for 50 pounds of body weight. So if you're a 200-pound female, now and you're going to train for an hour, okay, now you're up to 40 grams of workout carbs, okay. If you're a male and you're 200 pounds and you're going 60 minutes, you still only get 30 grams, all right. Now, that's just my general rule. And the reason it's a general rule is you try these workout carbs and you might find, man, I'm really bloated. I don't feel good. I'm not going to consume that. Or I had a session that wasn't quite as intense, so I'm going to lower it down a little bit, right? Or I know I have a session that's going to be a lot harder. I'm going to maybe up it just a little bit. So it's just a place to start. It's not a hard and fast rule, okay? That 10 grams per an extra 30 over 30 minutes. 10 grams for 50 pounds of body weight, over 150 pounds for a woman, over 200 pounds for a man. That's just a general rule, okay? And body composition will play into that as well, how much lean mass you have, etc. But usually just general body size. I mean, even if you're more body fat, you still got to move your body, and so you're going to burn more calories as a result. So I would just encourage you to give that a try. If you put fuel in. If you consumed 40 grams more of workout carbs, you're like, well, that's 160 calories in sugar. True. What if you burn another 300 calories during your training session? Okay. And if you're not interested in losing weight, then that's playing into recovery. So I think you'll find, even if within the session, like, hey, I felt good in the session, that was good. But see how you feel the next 3 sessions if you do that. You might find your recovery is improved, working as you work through a whole training week. That's my challenge to you. Some of you are already doing this. And you can if you've been doing it for a while, tinker with a little bit, maybe bump it up another 10 grams to see how you feel, or, understand that there's, hey, I didn't really feel good during that session, maybe a little bit more. If you're trying to cut weight, don't sacrifice the workout carbs. You can't burn calories when you're a zombie. So don't cut those. And certainly, again, if you're an athlete, in the sense of you're training for a sport, and you're training hard, this is one of those things to hold fast to. Don't forego this. And if you're a young athlete, I deal with young athletes, and again, a lot of times that's the mindset. It was always, hey, I feel good, right? Well, you could feel great. And the difference between great and good is a big deal on the playing field, okay? So lots of context I could frame this, but just trying to sell it to you, the importance of the workout carbs, all right? And if you do a good job with workout carbs, you can kind of lay off the pre-workout, except for the one I'm selling. Steel Cage Rage. Make sure you check out that video if you haven't. My sponsor. But all the other pre-workouts you could get rid of, because if you're feeling properly, you can get rid of all that caffeinated wonderfulness, or maybe having another form that doesn't have a proprietary brand stuck on it that you have no idea what's in it. All right, that's all I have. Subscribe to this channel, like this video. Don't forget, I need the Lambo, man. I want a Lambo really bad, and 1,000 subs, supposedly, according to the YouTube people that sell stuff, they say that they always have a Lambo in the background. So I'm gonna believe them because it's the internet, and the internet doesn't lie. Okay, see you next video.